I do what I want is the motto he carried through his entire career. He's a melancholic comedian, a living Hollywood legend. It was with a cynical and neglectful attitude that Bill Murray played his best roles and received the World Film Awards, Golden Globe, BAFTA, as well as an Oscar nomination. He will make you laugh with a serious face, look for him all over the world, and he also considers the elephant one of his best friends. He communicates with people by answering machine, and contradictory behavior makes some people hate him and others adore him. Among his more than 90 films, you're sure to find some of your all-time favorites, but there will also be a few you never expected. So, what makes a star choose low-budget projects? What wild ideas were born in the actor's head? What saved him from clinical depression? And how does he check the directors before agreeing to the role? Hello everyone, it's Biographer with you, and today we will reveal to you the secret of Bill Murray. Make tea and get comfortable. And we're getting started. It's hard to say whether Bill became so popular because of or in spite of. William James Murray was born on September 21, 1950 in a large and low-income family. By the time he was born, he was the fifth child of Edward and Lucille Murray. They lived in the suburbs of Chicago in the small village of Wilmot. Bill's father, Edward Murray, was a lumber salesman. His mother, Lucille Doyle, managed the household and raised the children. The couple had 9 heirs in total. The family was very religious and belonged to Irish Catholics whose ancestors emigrated to the United States in the last century. They lived modestly, but amicably and cheerfully. The father enjoyed great authority, and the children tried very hard to please him. Tired, he came after work, and these few hours were the only way to get his attention. 11 people. It was a pretty good audience, the actor recalls. While the father ate slowly because of diabetes, the children ate their dinner in 7 minutes. They spent the rest of their time trying to make Murray Sr. laugh while he had food in his mouth. It was quite difficult to make my father laugh. For me, such evenings were like how to be funny lessons. If you weren't funny, you were just eating soup with downcast eyes. We all went out of our way to make him laugh. If he was laughing at you, I mean he loved you. So I just had to look funny. Sometimes it went to extremes, so one day young Bill was jumping around the dining table with a toy gun and pretending to be James Cagney, but he fell and hit his head hard. It hurt him, but everyone laughed. The future actor did not lose his head, stood up and said, "Thank you for your attention. The game is worth a candle. I made everyone laugh a lot, although, of course, I got hurt." He later recalled the situation. The strict rules of the family and the discipline from the Jesuit school the children attended seemed to have had the opposite effect on Bill. The boy grew up sloppy, studied poorly, and skipped classes. No, he was a smart kid, but he just wasn't interested in lessons. He often made fun of teachers and drew cartoons on them. The only thing that interested him was golf and girls. It was his fascination with girls that attracted him to the school theater, which won his heart. He started acting in musicals because he wanted to dance with girls. "I had the greatest time of my high school years doing The Music Man," he recalls. "That was how I got hooked on show business." Somehow, after graduating from high school, the guy entered medical courses at the University of Denver under the influence of his parents. Without constant supervision from his family, Bill completely went off the rails. "I'm normal, and then I wanted to be a doctor because I thought it was smart. Turns out there's a lot of studying involved with pre-med. I wanted it to be easier than that." He skipped classes, became interested in pot, and just had fun with friends, often spending the night at the police station. The future actor liked to be the center of attention and surprise others with his jokes, but sometimes it backfired against him. One day at the Denver airport, Bill went too far and jokingly responded to an employee's question about what was in his suitcase: a bomb. They still didn't find the bomb, but they did find the pot, which Bill apparently forgot about. After that, the would-be prankster was expelled from college, and Bill had to come home with nothing. When the prodigal son returned to his family in Chicago, he had no diploma, no profession, no prospects for the future. It was necessary to live on something, and Murray began to get by with odd jobs at a construction site, pizzeria, selling popcorn at the entrance to a supermarket. But he didn't stay anywhere for a long time. Nature took its course, and the future actor often broke the rules and teased the bosses. He never wanted to become an actor, but life led him to a different decision. At that time, his brother Brian studied at the famous Chicago acting studio Second City, the famous sketch comedy group. Seeing how his younger brother was wasting his life, he suggested that he enroll in acting courses. Hardly anyone expected how easily Bill would pass the auditions and start studying. Even more, the future star was given a scholarship so that he could study for free. But even Murray himself did not expect that he would ever be able to become famous and treated his acting career as usual, not seriously. Soon, TV producers noticed the eccentricity of the young man. In 1973 to 74, he took part in the comedy radio show National Lampoon Hour along with Dan Aykroyd, Gilda Radner, and John Belushi. In 1975, both Murray brothers were participating in an off-Broadway radio show spinoff when Bill was spotted by sports commentator Howard Cosell, who invited him to join the cast of his comedy show called Saturday Night Live. Meanwhile, a similar show with a similar name was hosted by Lorne Michaels on NBC, which was very popular. Murray joined it in 1976 and immediately formed his comedic role, which he would play for many years. Murray recalls how he once got a call from television. The producer of the Saturday Night Show asked, "Bill, do you know how to tell all sorts of stupid stories?" Actually, no, I said honestly. "It doesn't matter. We'll give you the role of a kind of nerdy smartass. It'll turn out funny." One of the first sketches of the young actor's image was this. A man goes into the shower, takes a soap microphone, and starts singing, introducing guests and chatting. This sketch was very comical and parodic. Among Murray's regular characters were a Hollywood news guy who mutilated stars, a singer from Las Vegas who sang songs in different halls. "I always saw it as acting," Murray says now. "It was comedy, of course, but in the beginning of SNL, I was angry a lot. The writers weren't interested in writing for me. I was always cast as the second cop. If I hadn't written the shower mic sketch, I might have been off the show." The project quickly became one of the highest rated and opened the door to a big movie for the young comedian. Over the years, it has been attended by many world-class stars who were not afraid to discover themselves from a new comedic side, and the aspiring artists woke up famous. Of course, the actor found adventurers here too. So Jane Solins, the wife of the late Bernie Solins, who co-founded Second City, recalled how she allowed the actor to live in their basement until he set it on fire. "He was an absolute slob," she recalls. Despite the fact that the landlady kicked out the would-be tenant, they remained friends. Quote, "You can't stay mad at him for long because he's so funny," she says. After the first success, Bill began to be offered the first roles, albeit small ones. Without hesitation, the actor moved to Los Angeles, but even then, he knew what he wanted. He never had much vanity, says Lorne Michaels, the producer of Saturday Night Live. There was a way he always told the truth. He could do a show business guy and it never came off as phony because there's nothing cynical about Bill. However, the sudden fame became a real test for the carefree young man. It's definitely an education. No matter how well your parents raise you, there's nothing in life that prepares you for it. I remember when John Belushi and Dan Aykroyd, whom I'd known for years before they were on SNL, became these enormous celebrities. You've got to say, okay, I have to cut these guys some slack for a year and a half until they calm down. You can't give them more than 2 years. 2 years, then they've got a problem. Soon the audience saw the actor in cameo roles. For example, one of the first films, Caddyshack, he played the owner of a golf course who could not catch a gopher that plucked the whole neighborhood with its burrows. Actually, filming is a terribly tedious activity, but this plot turned out to be so close to me that it reconciled me with cinema, the actor recalls. There was also a starring role in the little-known comedy Loose Shoes, which was advertised as a movie that makes fun of movies. The actor gained his first tangible fame with the release of the comedy Meatballs in 1979, where he got his first major role. The story tells about a summer camp and the friendship between a depressed 12-year-old boy and a joker leader who helps the young man cope with his experiences. Murray played this main leader, and he did it easily and naturally. You can't even tell that he's in front of the camera. And even more so, you can't say that this is the actor's first major role. Everything that should be in a teen comedy movie is here. Friendship and values, a way to find a common language with difficult children and outsiders, camaraderie, and just casual fun. Bill's character pours out a lot of witticisms and jokes and seems to take everything lightly at all.
The best darn camp there is.
Well, are you connected with Camp Mohawk?
Well, I think so. I'm the program director, Jerry Aldini.
Despite the fact that the picture initially had a small budget and no big bets were made on it, it paid off at the box office with a vengeance. With a production cost of $1.5 million, the film earned $43 million. Even at the beginning of his career, Murray was elusive and did as he pleased. In 1979, Lorne Michaels recalls, "Bill volunteered to drive my Super Beetle from LA to New York. Remember, I was his boss. Occasionally I would hear from Bill on the road. He'd be in Florida and I'd say, 'But Bill, is Florida on the way?' Or a week later he'd be in Aspen and I'd say, 'But Bill, it took all summer to get the Beetle. But Bill had installed a stereo.' This model of behavior will remain with the actor for many years to come." So, colleague and close friend Michael Ovitz will tell a similar story. "Bill is always difficult to find. a call would come in from India and it would be Bill saying, "Here I am at the Taj Mahal." I wouldn't believe him, and he would put his Indian taxi driver on the line to prove he was there. Or he'd show up at my house in LA out of the blue, ring my doorbell and say he was a pizza delivery man. We'd let him in, he'd actually have a pizza. We'd eat it, and then he'd disappear again. It was like that for years. The teen movie was followed by the biographical comedy Where the Buffalo Roam in 1980, in which the actor had the role of crazy journalist Hunter Thompson. It was the debut project of director Art Linson, and the script itself was written based on several autobiographical novels by Hunter Thompson himself, a journalist who's still called a genius in his field.
I must have meant it if I said it, so I owe him an apology or nothing at all.
Well, look, if you get a chance to see him, what are you going to say to him?
Well, I'm going to tell him to wear brighter colors.
To portray the controversial personality of Dr. Gonzo was not an easy task for Thompson. The writer was a rebel in life, a rebel who did not want to put up with reality and took illegal substances. The latter helped him to get used to the reality that he did not want to admit, but not for long. Hunter's eccentric worldview and philosophy may have repelled many directors, but not all of them, so several films were made based on his monographs, and Buffalo Roam is among them. Confident that no one would ever want to film about him, Hunter sold the film rights to his story on his own. But he was wrong, and there were people who decided that his story deserves the attention of millions. That was Linson. That was later Terry Gilliam. The paradox was that as soon as there was a daredevil who decided to take on the role of Thompson, the latter, with the jealousy of an angry egocentric, attacked the upstart who dared to portray him on the screen. Murray withstood the pressure, and moreover, the young people became friends. Their friendship lasted until the journalist's death in 2005, and was filled with many unusual events. In his book, The Kingdom of Fear, Thompson describes how one day he and Bill, being tipsy, got into a fight with the driver. The actor himself did not comment on the statement in any way, but said about the bruises under his nails, quote, "I tripped over a curb," he explained. "I just remember grabbing the legs of those running right over me." One of Hunter and Murray's favorite pastimes when the latter came to the Woody Creek estate was shooting firearms and coming up with unusual concepts. Their creative and slightly insane friendship was not limited even by distance. They often called in the middle of the night and invented all sorts of games. For example, in 2004, the idea of the game Shotgun Golf. In part, you probably guessed what the essence of the game is. One person's playing golf and the second is trying to stop him by shooting a shotgun at a ball. For the thrill, it was essential to do it while completely drunk. Quote, "I called Bill Murray with an idea that would change both our lives forever." Thompson wrote in his article, "The crazy bugger picked up on the fourth ring and I felt my heart racing. Hot damn, I thought. This is how empires are built. Late? I know not late." But there was also a lot of constructiveness in their relationship, so an extraordinary friend will one day save the actor from clinical depression and possibly from trying to end his own life. They'll talk about it later in an interview. The reasons for this are unknown, but as Murray himself admitted, he was saved by Hunter's attention and his non-banal response. A friend advised him to listen to the German Afternoons album by country singer John Prine. He especially insisted on the composition Linda Goes to Mars, which, as it turned out, played up the actor's experiences.
I remember listening, and I think this song was about track 22 or 26 or something. It's deep. And
it's a deep one.
It's deep, and it's like way in it. I'm thinking to myself, who the hell put him in charge of the sense of humor as I'm going way into this record? But there it was, this song, Linda Goes to Mars, and I heard that song and I went, And that was the beginning of the return.
As for the picture, it was not understood. Neither the audience nor the critics. Neither did they understand Thompson's own monographs, so it's unlikely that the result was so unexpected. Perhaps the director's approach to the realistic portrayal of the main character was not exactly what was expected, but to be fair, Bill coped with the role perfectly. Perhaps it was because, like his character, he didn't take anything too seriously at the time. Hollywood buzzed with stories about his adventures and escapades. In 1981, a military comedy starring Bill was released. It was Stripes, in which his character, along with a friend, played by Harold Ramis, goes to the army to be successful with girls. Murray himself insisted that Ramis star with him in the title role, so they were friends in life. Moreover, the actor was sure that his friend and colleague would help him change his lines and improvise better in the frame. And for good reason, because both actors continuously improvised while working, coming up with new jokes. These included Murray's quips about Lee Harvey and the cow, as well as his address to Sergeant Hulka. The director of the film, Yvonne Reitman, also decided to make fun of the actors and invited a real army barber to the haircut scene before the start of the basic training course. Therefore, the expressions of sincere surprise and shock were real, as were their emotions. There were also conflicts. Actress Sean Young was annoyed by Bill's behavior and his constant improvisations, and after they worked together, Murray vowed never to work with Young again. But in general, the film is more like a bantering and ironic story of old Army friends, and the director's idea itself is more like an attempt to laugh at classic American Army values. Bill didn't seem to be playing at all. His character, a slacker, a quitter, a womanizer, and a prankster, seemed to have been specially written for him. Well, or copied from him. Murray would carry this image, a likable hero who disregards rules and regulations, throughout the long years of his career. There was another important thing that he got from filming: his first great love. On the set, Bill met the talent coordinator, Margaret Kelly, who later became his wife. Their marriage came as a surprise to their loved ones. In 1981, they decided to hold a secret ceremony, fled to Las Vegas, and got married at 4:30 a.m. More precisely, it is not so. It was Bill who decided to hold the ceremony, but Kelly herself didn't know anything about it. Sincerely assuming that they were heading down the San Fernando Valley in search of a Mexican restaurant, later the woman would say, quote, "I really was going to pick a fight, and then I thought, let's just do it. He had this thing planned out. I thought, go with it." Then the lovers repeated their ceremony with friends and family. They were married for 15 years, during which the couple had 2 children. Homer, who's now a famous restaurateur, and Luke, a respected basketball coach. Supporting her husband for many years, Margaret worked in the real estate industry and also had her own home goods store. While his wife provided support behind the scenes, real success awaited him in the future. The actor's next high-profile work was the comedy Tootsie, starring Dustin Hoffman and Jessica Lange. Bill got a minor but vivid and memorable role of the main character's friend. By the way, all the lines that Jeff Slater says were Murray's improvisation.
Sandy, open the door!
Sandy, is that you?
Yes, it's me.
Oh, what time is it? I fell asleep, I guess. I was having a nightmare, and you were in it. Mike is in the shower.
I'm in the shower. I got soap in my eyes. I'll be right out.
Again. Sidney Pollack's project was a huge success and critical acclaim, becoming the highest-grossing film of 1982 and grossing $177 million. The film received numerous nominations, and in 1998, the film was listed on the National Film Registry as having, quote, cultural, historical, or aesthetic significance. Soon the actor was invited to the comedy show The Rodney Dangerfield Show, It's Not Easy Being Me, where he was able to show his comedic talent. But Bill was able to fully express himself and get his finest hour with the picture, which became iconic among viewers of all ages. Name the most famous Bill Murray film of the late 20th century, without thinking. No doubt, the image of him in a gray jumpsuit with a strange backpack on his back comes to mind. Yvonne Reitman's Ghostbusters gave him one of the main roles, the leader of the brigade of fighters against paranormal phenomena. Dan Aykroyd, Harold Ramis, Ernie Hudson, and the beautiful Sigourney Weaver joined him in the fight against boogeymen. The story tells, suddenly you don't know, about 3 parapsychology professors who courageously took upon themselves the responsibility to save their hometown from evil spirits. Or almost so. 3 intelligent buggers who earn money from their craft, sometimes causing more harm to the customers than evil spirits. As usual, improvisations were necessary, and the dialogues in the film are a separate kind of pleasure.
Alice, I'm going to ask you a couple of standard questions, okay? Have you or any member of your family ever been diagnosed schizophrenic, mentally incompetent?
My uncle thought he was St. Jerome.
I'd call that a big yes.
The authors wrote the script, aiming specifically at the main characters. Bill got the role of Mouth in The Famous 3, and big bets were placed on him in the success of the film. But he was known for not completing projects, and therefore Columbia Pictures CEO Frank Price agreed to finance Murray's personal project, The Razor's Edge, believing if it would fail, it would lose little money, and hoping the gesture would secure Murray's commitment to Ghostbusters. Only the team had to catch the actor to lock him up and finally made him read the script. We drove out to LaGuardia and Bill flew in on a private plane, an hour late, and came through the terminal with a stadium horn, one of those bull horns that play 80 different fight songs, and he was addressing everyone in sight with this thing and playing a song. We dragged him out of there and went to a restaurant in Queens, Ramis later recalled. It was the first comedy film at that time to use so many special effects. The studio had little faith in its box office potential and did not really want to allocate $25 to $30 million for production. In order to somehow reduce the cost of production, Boss Film Studios was created, which was engaged in a combination of computer and practical effects, creating miniatures and dolls to create horror scenes. By the way, the famous Ectomobile was originally supposed to be completely black. This idea was abandoned when it turned out that a large number of scenes would be shot at night. When modern marketing tricks did not exist, Yvonne Reitman went on an interesting adventure to advertise a new film. A commercial was launched in which the beginning of the phone number, 555, which is usual for films, was replaced by the usual 1-800. The most curious called this number and got a message from Bill Murray and Daniel Aykroyd. Of course, such a feature was spread by word of mouth. For 6 weeks, about 1,000 calls were received to this number every hour. Having caused a stir, the picture was greeted by the audience with great delight. They didn't even notice that there were a lot of raw special effects and logical inaccuracies in the picture because it was released on the screens not fully designed. It earned $296 million at the global box office, becoming the highest-grossing film of 1982. The film was praised for its combination of comedy, action, and horror. Murray's performance was often the subject of praise. He was nominated for a Golden Globe for his role. The movie gave rise to a multi-million-dollar franchise. There were 4 sequels, a reboot of the franchise in 2016, licensed action figures, books, comics, video games, television series, theme park rides, and other original Ghostbusters-themed products. But each new part did not repeat the success of the first film, and earned less and less. The second part of 1989 received lukewarm reviews and earned $215 million at the box office. The third was in 2021. It earned $205 million and received mixed reviews. The fourth one, released in 2024, also did not get much recognition and hardly paid off the budget. By the way, in the third and fourth parts, Murray only made brief appearances, choosing not to take a full role in the project. According to the actor, he was disappointed in the project even during the filming of the second part, where there was still a full original cast. That's because the movie was radically different from what they expected, saying that there were only a few great scenes in the sequel. When we did the sequel, it was rather unsatisfying for me, because the first one to me was the goods. It was the real thing. The sequel, it was a few years later, and there was an idea pitched. They got us all together in a room, and we all just laughed for a couple hours and thought up a few ideas, so we had this idea, but it didn't turn out to be that idea when I arrived on set. The director, however, was not as categorical. We had the weight of this extraordinary success on our shoulders. I think we'd waited a long time to do the second one. Probably too long. Director Yvonne Reitman said in 2020. So that weight even grew heavier, but I think people are now starting to see the magic that is actually there. But whatever it was, the film became a cult classic and took a significant place in the history of cinema. In 2015, the Library of Congress selected it for preservation in the National Film Registry. Its title song, Ghostbusters by Ray Parker Jr., also became a #1 hit. But let's go back to the 80s. After a fantastic ghost movie, Bill woke up a celebrity. Now he could afford everything he was interested in. The young artist had confidently settled on the Hollywood Olympus. Unexpectedly, the actor decided to step away from his comedic roles, though his initial attempts were not very successful. Despite the overwhelming success of Ghostbusters, there were no worthwhile offers, and the actor took time out in his career. He devoted a 4-year break to traveling and studying French at the Sorbonne. Murray was seriously considering saying goodbye to acting at this stage of his life. Moreover, the work was not going well. In 1984, the fantastic drama Nothing Lasts Forever by Tom Schiller was released, which did not even reach distribution to cinemas, as well as the drama The Razor's Edge by John Byram, which became a box office bomb. It was very important to Bill, as he himself co-wrote a script about spirituality and redemption. It was this picture that Columbia agreed to finance in exchange for the actor's participation in Ghostbusters, and Murray won twice. Only now the audience was not ready to see the actor in a non-comedic role, and therefore The Razor's Edge failed at the box office. Quote, "I quit after that." Murray recalls, quote, "I stayed away. I moved to Paris. I sort of knew how much I could gamble without giving away my life." A small exception was a cameo role in the horror film Little Shop of Horrors, which tells about an ominous flower eating people.
I've been saving all month for this. I think I need a root canal. I'm sure I need a long, slow root canal.
In France, the actor studied philosophy. In addition, the couple had a second son, Luke. By this time, Hollywood seemed very far away at the moment. It took everyone a long time to stop counting the Ghostbusters money. Murray recalls, "They were distracted, and they left me alone for a while. There were times when they wanted me to make movies that were part of packages, and I would never bite. I knew certain movies like Airplane were going to be successful, but I didn't want to do it. It's just not my thing. I don't lie awake and think, if only I'd done Revenge of the Nerds." But in the end, he gave the film industry a second chance. The role of the egocentric and self-satisfied tycoon Frank Cross in the family comedy Scrooged by Richard Donner became more prominent. You've probably heard about the fairy tale of the Ghosts of Christmas. Donner's story was no exception, and the famous legend was told in a new way. Nowadays, few would be surprised by the technique of adapting a story to modern times, but in the late 90s, retelling Scrooge's story with a contemporary, for that time, character was a fresh and innovative approach, and Donner successfully implemented it. Interestingly, the comments regarding Bill's performance in this comedy are very different. For some, the film became a benefit for the possibilities of an actor who revealed himself in all his glory. Someone saw Murray's game as overkill and outright antics in every scene. But the director's approach to the volume level of the main character became even more ambiguous. It, according to Murray himself, could not but affect the perception of the character and the movie as a whole. Richard Donner is constantly screaming, constantly raising the power and range of the scream as the film progresses. He kept telling me to do things louder, louder, louder. I think he was deaf, Bill said. This is one of the few reasons for the conflict that existed between the actor and the director during filming. Every single minute of the day, that could have been a really, really great movie. The script was so good. There's maybe one take in the Final Cut movie that is mine. We made it so fast, it was like doing a movie live. He kept telling me to do things louder, louder, louder. I think he was deaf. According to Bill, he disagreed with Donner every minute of the day, and in particular, his claims were due to the high pace of production, such that, quote, it was like doing a live movie. In turn, the director was annoyed by the actor's constant improvisation. Of working with Murray, Donner claimed in a 1988 interview, "It's like standing on 42nd Street and Broadway and the lights are out and you're the traffic cop." And continued, "He's superbly creative, but occasionally difficult. As difficult as any actor." It is likely that the actor's spontaneous and free approach to filming only aggravated the tension due to the active schedule. At the same time, Bill does not consider the picture to be bad. Quote, "It had some good stuff in it," he told Roger Ebert in an interview. He especially liked the script. Perhaps it's because he himself had a hand in writing it. Rumor has it that the first script of Scrooged, Murray tore it to shreds and then joined the writing team to create a new one.
Not bad, huh?
Anyway, the film was a modest box office success, earning $100 million with a budget of $32 million. The criticism was also ambiguous. Quote, "Scrooged is one of the most disquieting, unsettling films to come along in quite some time. It was obviously intended as a comedy, but there is little comic about it, and indeed the movie's overriding emotions seem to be pain and anger. This entire production seems to be in dire need of visits from the ghosts of Christmas," wrote Ebert. At the same time, the movie has become a cult classic among Christmas films around the world. In 1990, the actor tried himself as a producer and director in the crime comedy Quick Change. There he also played the main role, Grim. As for the directorial debut, the picture turned out very well and earned good ratings. There's a famously twisted plot, dynamics, and a successful comedy. Although the story itself is quite simple. What happens if three friends decide to rob a bank in order to leave the city they're tired of? And the very essence is not so much a robbery as an attempt to escape, which turns into a series of ridiculous and funny situations. Bill's stage partners were Randy Quaid, who played the silly friend of the main character, as well as Gina Davis in the role of Grim's lover. And let the picture fall short of Murray's main masterpieces, it is called one of the most interesting crime comedies of the 90s. In 1991, Murray starred in the film What About Bob?, which became an unconditional hit. By this point, Bill had gained a reputation as a successful comedian and actor who's able to play any role. The actor plays a neurotic, obsessive, and not very smart person who can piss off anyone. Richard Dreyfuss became his partner in the main role and portrayed a psychiatrist whose lot it was not only to get to know the main character, but also to try to save him from his abyss. And everything would be fine, but one day Dr. Marvin decided to go on vacation with his family, and if at first you sympathize with such a correct and respected psychotherapist, then as the plot progresses, you get into the Murray child hero and realize the doctor himself is not without a fool.
I will negotiate and I will compromise, but defeat?
Frank Oz, the director of a comedy about the relationship between a psychiatrist and his crazy patient, managed to create a thin and funny picture. The script, the acting, the directing, everything received commendable reviews from the audience. But of course, the crowning achievement of Bill's career is a completely different film. An amazing story in which Bill's character experiences these same events day after day, and even in a duet with the sex symbol of the 90s, Andie MacDowell, has become a hit. Many called this work the best in Murray's career, and the film itself was included in the U.S. National Film Registry. Surprisingly, it received modest results at the box office, only $70 million. What if we told you that Murray was far from the first to be considered for the role? Among the contenders were Tom Hanks, Chevy Chase, Steve Martin, and John Travolta, but they were considered too cute for such a role. The main character is a sarcastic and selfish narcissist and part-time weather forecaster who gets stuck in a time loop and has to relive Groundhog Day over and over again until he learns to get better. According to fans, the main character has experienced the same day about 12,000 times. Who among us would not consider his life in such a period? As director Harold Ramis has foreseen, Murray was the only actor who could make narcissistic Phil Connors endearing to the audience. He seems to come by the nasty part quite honestly, Ramis said wryly in the making of documentary The Weight of Time. Bill Murray's not a movie star by accident. He understands vanity and self-centeredness. Rubin is kinder, merely saying that Murray was not afraid to be cruel.
Do you ever have deja vu, Mrs. Lancaster?
I don't think so, but I could check with the kitchen.
No, that's okay. Thank you.
At the same time, the actor did not agree to the role for a long time. When Ramis called him to discuss the project, he just shook his head and said, "I'm not here." But apparently the director managed to persuade the uncooperative actor. When I read the script for Groundhog Day, I decided it was the best thing that had been written in the last 10 years, Murray recalled. But the shooting was very difficult for me. The thing is, I hate rodents, and this groundhog almost crippled me. As soon as I picked up this damn rat, it immediately bit me. However, he did not fully understand Ramis's idea. He asked each scene, good Phil or bad Phil, trying to get a feel for his character as the plot progressed. This was the next and last joint project of Ramis and Murray. Despite many years of friendship and cooperation, colleagues fell out over the actor's behavior. At that time, Murray was going through his first divorce, and as they said about him, it was not easy. At times, Bill was just irrationally mean and unavailable. He was constantly late on set. What I'd want to say to him is just what we tell our children. You don't have to throw tantrums to get what you want. Just say what you want, Ramis later said. They did not communicate for 21 years, reconciling only before the director's death. Many years later, the film was staged on Broadway in 2017. Murray was very supportive of the project, tacitly joining the show. The usually unflappable Murray was moved to tears as he watched the production, clearly sobbing, as the New York Times reported. The picture brought the actor not only a new round of fame, it radically changed his personal life. While working on The Fame, Bill meets a woman with whom he will cheat on his wife, Margaret Kelly. Their relationship with his wife had exhausted itself by 1996, and later he would comment on his act in this way. Not to diminish a relationship with a woman, I can't take on another relationship if I'm not taking care of the things I really need to take care of the most. It's not a selfish thing, it's sort of an obligation. Jennifer Butler was a costume designer, and their romance developed rapidly. This led to a high-profile divorce and lawsuits. Soon, Jennifer and Bill got married, and in this marriage, 4 sons were born: Caleb, Jackson, Cooper, and Lincoln. The relationship wasn't simple. Only then, after 10 years of marriage, Butler will file for divorce and accuse the star of the most indecent things. But in the meantime, Bill's happy. After such success, the path of a romantic hero and leading man in romantic comedies seemed open to him. However, Murray wasn't at all drawn to the prospect of going mainstream. The romantic figure has to behave romantically even after acting like a total swine, Murray explains. It's, I'm so gorgeous, you're going to have to go through all kinds of hell for me, and that isn't interesting to me. Romance, like comedy, is very particular. Gradually conquering Hollywood in his own way, Bill appears in the film Mad Dog and Glory, playing with Robert De Niro and Uma Thurman. Of course, Murray gets the role of a charming villain, namely gangster Frank Milo, who by chance becomes indebted to De Niro's timid hero. Milo gives his girlfriend to the police photographer to repay his debt. It's a simple, deep drama with a touch of comedy. There's no pathos and sentimentality. It's not mainstream, but a chamber movie without staged mawkish scenes.
Bring it down, Wayne.
I love her.
You love her.
I own her!
Perhaps that's why the film did not have much success at the box office, earning only $11 million. Small things compared to other works by the star trio. Ed Wood became an even more controversial Bill's project, where he had a cameo role. Tim Burton's drama, starring Johnny Depp, stands out very much in Murray's filmography of the 90s. The film tells about the life and work of an odious and controversial figure in Hollywood, director Ed Wood, who in 1980 was named the worst director in the history of the Dream Factory. The director was a fan of Wood's odious work and tried to convey the story with deep respect based on Rudolph Gray's monograph, Nightmare of Ecstasy, The Life and Art of Edward D. Wood Jr., and letters from the late maestro himself. Bill immediately agreed to participate in the project without even seeing the script. And then I saw the script and went, oh, damn, this part is written Nelly. I said, "The last thing I want is to be obvious, direct, and offensive." He will remember. The film failed at the box office and received a lot of mixed reviews. Someone praised it for the author's approach and sincerity, while others criticized it for idealism and improbability. But we can't say for sure that working with such a cinema master as Burton was in vain for Murray. In 1996, the actor returned to the family cinema. 3 of his projects were being released at once. The first was the comedy Kingpin starring Woody Harrelson, Randy Quaid, and Bill. The second was the movie Larger Than Life, where Bill was accompanied by an elephant named Ty. And the third one was the animated adventure film Space Jam, in which the key roles were divided between Michael Jordan and Bugs Bunny. The first 2 were not successful at the box office. Perhaps something more extravagant and vulgar was expected from the directors of the Kingpin film by the Farrelly brothers. The pictures filled with subtle humor, and the main actors looked like they had a lot of fun playing bowling. As usually happens, Murray got a not too presentable role of Big Ern, an arrogant and overeager bowling star who came out in the performance of the actor brilliant and hilarious. Perhaps it was because the directors gave the actor carte blanche to improvise, and therefore he read the script and did everything his own way. By the way, in the scene where Bill got 3 strikes in a row, he did it by accident. Therefore, emotions are not feigned. Howard Franklin's touching comedy about the friendship between a man, played by Murray, and an elephant which he inherited also did not become a hit. Despite the fact that the picture has a good rating and pleasant reviews, here Bill is a more pleasant character than his previous image, but he also has a path from pragmatism and indifference to sweetness. And he was helped in this by a smart and trained elephant, as well as a bad guy trucker, which is unusual for McConaughey. Surprisingly, the actor calls Ty, that's the elephant's name, his best friend for the last 20 years. It was a very exciting relationship, perhaps the most exciting in my life. After all, an elephant is like a child, but it cannot speak. The elephant always knows what you're thinking and what you're feeling right now. When the shooting ended and it was time to say goodbye, I was very sad. I was crying so hard I almost cried my eyes out. Then I hosed Ty down with water for the last time and gave her a shower. "I'm sorry," I said, and burst into tears. In Space Jam, Bill had such a small role that it seemed he did director Joe Hydka a favor. The director himself admitted that he'd literally had to beg the actor to play in one of the scenes. According to Hydka, Murray became more involved after learning about hybrid live-action and animation techniques. Murray asked, "How are you doing the green screen?" Hydka recalled. I told him and his eyes light up. He says, "On Ghostbusters, we had to look at dots on the wall." He sneaks over to Ghostbusters director and Space Jam producer Yvonne Reitman, and all of a sudden he's in the last scene. That day we quickly wrote and shot something to set it up. And when he agreed, he specially added the episode. There, Bill's character comes on as a substitute as part of the Toon team to help Michael Jordan and helps him make the winning throw. At the same time, you can watch the actor playing basketball, and his baseball cap with the inscription St. Paul Saints is a reference to the baseball team, one of the owners of which he was for some time. In 1997, John Emile took the idea of Mission Impossible and added, instead of the cool Tom Cruise, the regular guy. The hero, Simpleton. The role of this hero went to Bill Murray. Wallace Ritchie, an unhappy American who decides to unexpectedly visit his brother James, played by Peter Gallagher, in London to celebrate his birthday. However, Wallace unwittingly finds himself at the center of a very real conspiracy to revive the Cold War. Well, there are classics of the genre, The X-Files, shooting, chasing, beautiful women, and luck. Only with a parody of Hollywood action movies and blockbusters, seasoned with humor, without vulgarity and snobbery. The result was a film called The Man Who Knew Too Little, which, although it failed at the box office, was loved by the audience, but critics were less inclined to Emile's picture. Lawrence von Gelder of the New York Times called The Man Who Knew Too Little, quote, another movie high on concept and low on execution. Michael Wilmington of the Chicago Tribune wrote, quote, The Man Who Knew Too Little is a movie where almost everything seems to go wrong, beginning with the title. The film turned out to be both a critical and financial failure. It lost almost $7 million, and Roger Ebert claimed that Murray had almost nothing to push against and that, quote, all of the other characters are carefully tailored to fit precisely into the requirements of his misunderstanding, like pieces of a jigsaw puzzle. Despite this, the actor continued to work in a niche, voicing a character in the animated series Stories from My Childhood, and joined the team of the extravagant and original indie director Wes Anderson. Their debut collaboration, the comedy Rushmore, began with Murray's agent, who was a big fan of Anderson's first film, Bottle Rocket, and gave the actor a script to read. Bill liked them so much that he agreed to play for pennies. The minimum salary was $9,000. The writing was so precise, A lot of Rushmore is about the struggle to retain civility and kindness in the face of extraordinary pain, and I've felt a lot of that in my life. I play a guy who's aware that his life is not working, but he's still holding on, hoping something will happen, and that's what's most interesting. In life, you never have to completely quit. He explained his action. From the first films of the director, it was customary to invite the most famous Hollywood stars to the roles. Bill was accompanied by Jason Schwartzman, Olivia Williams, Brian Cox, and others. But still, in terms of status, they were all inferior to Murray so far. Realizing this, Wes was afraid of the star himself. They say that on the first day of filming, he even lowered his voice when talking to Murray. As it turned out, the director invited Bill not only because of the stardom. The star of Ghostbusters is one of Wes Anderson's most beloved actors. I consider this man to be an absolute genius, the director believes. He thinks very strangely, so you never know what he will say or do next minute. The actor turned out to not be scary at all, and involved in the project, helped the team in every possible way. He carried equipment, and when the film company refused to pay for the helicopter rental, Murray wrote a blank check to the young director, leaving the amount unspecified. And even more, the actor, who's used to impressive fees, agreed to his role for only $9,000. So what is the story that so hooked the star? The film is about a clever schoolboy and his group of friends who excels in almost everything except at school. He knows how to influence his peers, puts on plays, fencing, fights on the carpet, but he can't do anything about his learning abilities. But his main problem lies elsewhere. Like many people of his age, he cannot get close with his classmates and friends. And also, where without love, he falls completely in love with his young teacher. So the second contender for the attention of this very teacher, played by Olivia Williams, is played by Murray, the wealthy industrialist Herman Bloom. Being a competitor for a teenager and winning a lady's heart, Murray's hero often behaves like a child himself, and their friendship with the main character, Jason Schwartzman hero, gets into awkward and serious strength tests.
Oh yeah, I was gonna try and have that tree over there fall on you.
That big one?
Yep.
It would have flattened me like a pancake. What stopped you?
What's the point? She loves you.
The actor felt a kinship with Herman Bloom, so according to Gavin Edwards, this is due to the fact that the script, quote, showed how an arrogant young man can grow into a middle-aged man tired of life. I love almost all of my characters, but in terms of completeness, many of them are unfinished. I think Rushmore is the first film of mine that turned out to be so solid after Groundhog Day. Bill will tell later. I like that in Rushmore. I didn't have to constantly wave a flag over my head and drag the whole movie on myself as it often happens. I enjoyed playing Bloom because I believe that the main task of an actor is to serve the director. It is believed that this role rediscovered Bill to Hollywood, now as a respected actor of independent cinema. The film received a lot of positive reviews, and the actor was nominated for a Golden Globe for Best Supporting Actor. After the release of Rushmore, Bill Murray received some of the best reviews of his entire career. Before that, most of the actor's roles were built around comedic images of slacker losers who were not self-aware and did not take life too seriously. It was Wes's role in the film that revealed Bill as an actor capable of playing deep personal experiences of his characters. His Herman Bloom is a tired, eternally dissatisfied adult child who is in an existential crisis. The best he can do is act out petty grudges, constantly complaining about his idiot sons, throwing golf balls into pools, and hitting a children's basketball in the middle of a game. Not only is he unhappy, but he also must ensure the unhappiness of others. That's why he freaks out so much when he realizes that Max is also in love with his sweetheart Rosemary Cross, in whom he sees the only bright spot in his life. But it is Murray who manages to convey the feeling that his character's sullenness is a defensive reaction of a child who had been offended many times. This also brought them closer to the main character. Murray has finally found the role of his life, critic Kevin Maynard wrote about Rushmore. Quote, he masterfully mixed his trademark, don't take anything seriously state, with rare sensitivity and vulnerability in this role. The role he played in Wes's film marked the beginning of a long collaboration between two masters of cinema and a new role as an actor, a man who's able to convey the experiences of men with unresolved inner pain. Their collaboration continued for years to come, where the actor played characters with hidden emotional internal conflicts. In fact, from that moment on, Bill took part in almost all the projects of the extravagant director. This includes the emotionally empty Rayleigh St. Clair from The Royal Tenenbaums, the ruthless Steve Zissou from The Life of Aquatic with Steve Zissou, and the easily irritated Badger from Fantastic Mr. Fox, as well as many others. But not only did Anderson discover the new Bill Murray, he'll collaborate with many more niche directors, revealing his talent more deeply. But more on that later. In 1998, another attempt at Bill's participation in the drama was released. More precisely, in the criminal, scandalous drama Wild Things by John McNaughton. The main roles went to Kevin Bacon, Matt Dillon, Neve Campbell, and Teresa Russell. The plot of the film revolves around the insidiousness of women who in the end turn out to be mere pawns in someone else's game. The role of Bill took only 20 minutes of screen time. He got the role of a lawyer. For someone his appearance became almost the only plus in the film. At the same time, the film received mixed reviews and a fairly high rating, paying off at the box office with a stretch. The concept proved to be too complex and not everyone fully understood it. They did not allow Murray to show his full dramatic talent in another drama. Tim Robbins' Cradle Will Rock had a disastrous box office failure, and this is despite the fact that the reviews of those who watched it were generally positive. The story about the experiences of society during the Great Depression did not find a response from the mass audience. The director tried to depict everything: the views, the philosophy of the time, economics, art, politics, and the tragedy of a divided society by social inequality. At its core, it turned out to be a deep and serious study of that time. Bill got a small role in it as an unhappy ventriloquist, a spark of creativity in the world of lies, moral prostitution, and money. By this time, Bill gets tired of making everyone laugh and decides to try himself in something more lyrical. But will he be able to completely move away from the role of a comedian? By the mid-2000s, there was a slight decline in the actor's career. Apart from 2 projects with Wes Anderson, The Royal Tenenbaums and The Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou, which we talked about earlier, there are almost no major and high-profile roles in his filmography. A bonus, of course, can be considered a collaboration with the beauties Cameron Diaz, Lucy Liu, and Drew Barrymore in the first Charlie's Angel film, where the actor had a supporting role. It was followed by the disastrous thriller Hamlet by Michael Almereyda, the passing comedy Speaking of Sex, although it was not bad, judging by the reviews. There was also Andy Garcia's controversial and box office failure melodrama The Lost City, dedicated to the Cuban Revolution. Sofia Coppola's drama Lost in Translation stands out. In a story about loneliness and love, Murray and Scarlett Johansson complemented each other perfectly. Bill played an aging actor who, at the end of his career, accepts an offer to participate in the filming of a commercial in Tokyo. His family, work, and an established lifestyle no longer please him, and he and his wife have been living on different planets for a long time. Feeling deeply dissatisfied with his own life, he meets a young Yale graduate, played by Johansson, who is also looking for herself in the big city. There's no vulgarity, there's no special dynamics, only beautiful views of Tokyo and pure feelings with a person who hears and understands. But is such a story possible to have a happy ending? Coppola came up with the idea for the film during her stay in Tokyo while promoting her first feature film, The Virgin Suicides. Even then, she based her plot on a romantic story about 2 characters experiencing love melancholy. And from the very beginning, she saw Bill Murray in the main character, and therefore, for a whole year, she persuaded him to take part in the filming. And even when the actor agreed, he did not sign the contract. The director took a big risk. She spent a quarter of the entire small budget to pay the fee to an actor who might not even appear on the set. I wrote it for him and wasn't going to make it without him, so I was really determined to meet him, Coppola said. The small budget of only $4 million influenced the filming process. The team was small, the schedule was flexible, and there was a large share of improvisation by both of the actors and Coppola herself. Natural light was often used, and Japanese business and residential neighborhoods were used for filming. The risk and courage were justified. The film was a commercial success and received critical acclaim, including praise from Murray and Johansson's performance. The only stumbling block was the first scene, which was inspired by John Cassier's photorealistic paintings.
You really are having a midlife crisis, huh?
Really? I was afraid of that. I kept telling myself that, I just wanted to be ready in case we go to war tonight.
Slate critic David Edelstein called the scene the only head-scratcher in the film, although he otherwise appreciated it. In these pink panties, they saw what they wanted, an omen of an impending romance and an erotic dream of a young, alienated woman and longing for a human connection. While film scholar Todd Kennedy interprets it in terms of feminist film theorist Laura Mulvey's conception of the male gaze, arguing that the shot lasts so long as to become awkward, forcing the audience to become aware of and potentially even question their participation in the gaze. What can you do? It's the magic of Scarlett's pink panties and booty. The actor also participated in the voice acting of an animated character in a comedy film, which was loved by many children and adults. Did you know that a dirty red cat named Garfield speaks with the voice of Bill Murray? Of course, the first Garfield film was soon followed by a second one. Both films were a huge box office success and critical acclaim. Discussing his time working on the animated film, the actor commented, quote, "I did the Garfield movies, which were like one crazier than the next. I did 2 of them, and that's a long story of madness." But many fans were very surprised by this choice of actor. Well, the film adaptation of the comic book about the sarcastic cat did not fit into Bill's film career. It turned out that the actor agreed to participate in the project by accident. He saw Joel Coen's name on the script and assumed that Garfield was a new Coen Brothers project, mistakenly believing that this was the famous co-author of the black comedies The Big Lebowski and Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? Murray happily signed up. Bill worked, voiced, and resented the content of the lines in Coen's work, until it was explained to him this is not the Coen he thinks about. His mistake only became apparent when he came to record his voiceover. According to the actor, the story ended up being rather cruel. So I worked all day and kept going, that's the line? Well, I can't say that. And you sit there and go, what can I say that will make this funny and make it make sense? And I worked. I was exhausted, soaked with sweat, and the lines got worse and worse. And I said, okay, you better show me the whole rest of the movie so we can see what we're dealing with. But is such a story possible, or did Murray come up with it for comic effect? We'll never know. It's unlikely he was afraid that new experimental projects would greatly harm his reputation in the United States. At the moment, it is unknown how, but Bill was able to reach the level of a living legend, a cultural phenomenon adored by everyone, despite the fact that the actor himself adheres to a rather unusual, aggressively benevolent reputation. He draws people in with a laid-back philosophy, to relax and have fun, just from the fact that you exist. This is evident even in appearance when, in the words of one of the journalists, it feels like, quote, he roams the world dressed like he got into a fight with a laundry basket and lost, surprising the heck out of people and doing whatever he likes because he can. Almost everyone in the city has a story with an actor that they either experienced themselves or heard from friends. So there is a legend about how the actor helped a taxi driver saxophonist, whom he accidentally met on the road. The man shared with the star that due to the difficult work of 14 hours a day, he can't practice playing a musical instrument. And what did Bill do? He asked the taxi driver to get a saxophone, sat down with him in the back seat to listen, and their night ended in a restaurant, where Murray ate ribs and the would-be saxophonist played to the audience. Well, everyone has probably heard the story of how Murray steals French fries from visitors with the words, "No one will believe you anyway." But recently, they managed to capture him on camera. Bill's approach extends to work. The actor does not have his own manager, and all offers are sent to one number, which will be answered by an answering machine. He checks it according to his mood, and filming is sometimes delayed because no one can find where the actor is now. There was a similar situation with the offer to star in Iron Man, which was later told by Robert Downey Jr. Colleagues are often amazed by his inaccessibility, and he explains this as a zone of control. It's important to Bill that he manages the situation while, quote, the things that want to control me are out of the way, then there's less stuff in my field of vision, then I can work. Therefore, 2 persistent job offers usually go nowhere right away. If you keep saying yes, they'll stop asking you too. That's a much more likely event. I think we're all sort of imprisoned by, or at least bound to, the choices we make, and I think everyone in the acting business wants to make the right choices. He comes and goes depending on his mood and likes to arrange random performances, comedy sketches, and involve random people in them, or get involved himself if one of the fans recognizes him and asks for an autograph. For a long time, there was a legend on the internet that sometimes he approaches people on the street, closes their eyes, playing the children's game, Guess Who? When a person predictably cannot answer this question, he reveals this secret himself, smiles, and says the same phrase again, no one will believe you anyway. But with the advent of the internet, such performances are becoming more difficult to hide. Therefore, the internet is full of stories about how the actor reads poems to builders, showed pantomime to locals in Bali, worked as a bartender, and made a heartfelt speech at someone's bachelor party. Why is he doing all this? According to Bill himself, in modern society, people rarely get involved in someone's life. I'm not acting like this for the purpose of being exciting. I do it because it's fun. If there's life happening and you run from it, you're not doing the world a favor. You have to engage. This role around the actor is so firmly established that even stories about his difficult character do not harm him. The actor lives as he wants, says what he thinks. That's why he may have become a hero to people who are tired of fake and hunted celebrities. Bill is a master in knowing how not to have a bad time just because people want something from him. Jan Vogler said, quote, so we do meet a lot of people together, but there's always a relaxed feel about it because he enjoys himself in the moment and does just as much as he wants to do, and then he's done. He does one thing at a time and focuses just on that. At the same time, the actor's colleagues admit that the famous actor has a very difficult character in some places. There was a period when the actor was so temperamental that his friends nicknamed him the Murricane. Various colleagues, including Richard Dreyfuss, who shot What About Bob with him, and Richard Donner, who directed him in Scrooged, reportedly did not have the happiest stories about Murray. Harvey Weinstein said in 2014, quote, being a Murrayite is a religion where you can behave as badly as you want to people and they still love you. I used to feel guilty about behaving badly, and then I met Bill and it feels so much better. How the actor reacts to this, in the Murray way. Quote, "That's a very good way of putting it. I remember a friend said to me a while back, 'You have a reputation.' And I said, 'What?' And he said, 'Yeah, you have a reputation of being difficult to work with. But I only got that reputation from people I didn't like working with, or people who didn't know how to work, or what work is," the actor said. Quote, "People think because they employed you, they're allowed to treat you like a dictator, or whatever the worst word for dictator is. And that's always been a problem for me. Opening the door for someone behind you is as important as designing a building." Developing himself as an actor of non-mainstream cinema, Murray agrees to the main role from another indie director, Jim Jarmusch. Broken Flowers is considered one of his most populous films, and perhaps it was the perfect project to start working together. The actor was accompanied by Jeffrey Wright, Tilda Swinton, Sharon Stone, Jessica Lange, Francis Conroy. By the way, the biography of the beautiful Tilda Swinton is already on our channel. Do not miss this opportunity. In the romantic comedy, she played one of the former women of Murray's main character, Lovelace Don Johnston. Don Juan accidentally finds out that he has the only important thing in his life, his own son, and tries to find his mother among his former passions. This son suddenly becomes the meaning of his existence and salvation from loneliness, and with the development of the plot, it becomes completely unimportant whether the son actually exists. As the main character searches for him, he goes deeper and deeper into himself and asks questions about why he himself lives and what awaits him ahead. Bill Murray is great. He's not just playing great, he's playing brilliantly. His eyes are just an ocean of bottomless sadness and inner loneliness, wrote one of the commentators of this atypical road movie. Jarmusch wrote the role of Johnston specifically for the actor, as he is a big fan of him. By the way, the whole script took the director only a few weeks. In an interview with the Associated Press in 2019, Murray said that he had asked Jarmusch to shoot the film in locations an hour away from his home. Jarmusch filled Murray's wish, adding that Murray gave us restrictions that helped us.
"I don't know what I'm doing up here. I'm getting nowhere. Yeah, I saw her. Yeah, I saw her too. Yesterday. No clues. No typewriters."
The picture paid off the budget and received a lot of rave reviews. In the same year, it was nominated for the Palme d'Or at the Cannes Film Festival. Aggregator sites gave the film an average score of 8 out of 10, and the site's consensus reads, quote, "Bill Murray's subtle and underrated style complements director Jim Jarmusch's minimalist storytelling in this quirky but deadpan comedy." The actor returned to work with Jarmusch a few years later in the crime drama The Limits of Control. He gets the role of the main villain of the movie, an American who was sent to kill the main character, played by Isaac de Bancolet. But it wouldn't be Jim Jarmusch if it were that simple. The picture is as unusual as possible, both in meaning and in visualization. The silent protagonist is an assassin who drinks his espresso necessarily from 2 cups and conducts lengthy conversations with other people. The director touches on the theme of art, bohemia, meaning where it does not really exist. And even though Bill doesn't have much real screen time here, he's the only real living person in the entire movie. He swears, gets frustrated, hopes, and doesn't pretend to be anything he's not. Nor does he philosophize. Not everyone understood the picture, and that's understandable. Everyone saw their own in it because at its core, the film became a kind of illustration of the philosophy that Plato expressed a long time ago. The senses are deceptive. Everything is not what it seems.
That's fucking nonsense. Your sick minds have been polluted with crap.
In general, if we evaluate the actor's filmography of the last 2 decades, then the most successful and high-profile projects are associated with niche directors. Bill continues to collaborate with Wes Anderson in his unusual, visually stylized works. There was the adventure comedy The Darjeeling Limited, the family adventure film Moonrise Kingdom, the detective story The Grand Budapest Hotel, the very strange adventure cartoon Isle of Dogs, the comedy The French Dispatch of the Liberty, Kansas Evening Sun. In each of them, he was given an equivalent secondary role like many stars in Anderson's work. Each one, as a kind of world filled with deep philosophical meaning and honed in detail, has become a bright spot in the actor's filmography in recent years. By the way, after participating in the film The Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou, which was inspired by researcher Jacques-Yves Cousteau, the artist began to be associated with the Little Red Hat, a remarkable feature of The Frenchman. Nope, Bill is not sitting still and stubbornly filming, but there are not many high-profile successful films in his list in recent years. In 2008, he appeared in a cameo in the spy comedy Get Smart, which received an average rating in reviews, as well as in the fantasy City of Ember, which failed at the box office. It didn't work out in love either. In the same year, Jennifer Butler filed for divorce, arguing that her husband was behaving abominably. There was adultery, domestic violence, cannabis, alcohol, excessive addiction to sex. The divorce papers show that in 2007, Bill punched his wife in the face and said she was lucky that he didn't kill her. She also claimed that Murray traveled abroad to have affairs and filed a motion for a restraining order against the star, claiming that because of his behavior, she and their 4 children were forced to leave their $2.5 million home in Charleston, South Carolina. Murray's lawyer, John McDougal, did not comment on the allegations at the time, but said the actor was deeply saddened by the breakdown of his marriage. In addition, he added, quote, "He and his wife made loving parents and they're committed to the best interests of their children." Whatever that means. They eventually parted ways. The actor told the Orange County Register that the collapse of his second marriage was the worst thing that has happened to him in his entire life. The only thing that supported the actor during this period were his sons. He considered them a priority and decided for himself, quote, taking care of the things he really needs to take care of the most. The divorce has left its mark on Bill, and he himself declares that he needs, quote, to be more connected to himself before he's ready for a relationship with someone else. A year later, Murray played a cameo of himself in the trash horror movie Zombieland, starring Woody Harrelson, Jesse Eisenberg, Emma Stone, and Abigail Breslin. The post-apocalyptic zombie comedy is, of course, about how to survive during a zombie apocalypse. Correction, it's about how much fun it can be to survive. In a small role, we see an actor who decides, by cunning and with the help of cornstarch, to escape from the invasion of evil spirits. Zombies don't mess with other zombies. His hero is sure. Here you'll see both a reference to his iconic Ghostbuster and a joke about its unsuccessful projects.
It was my bad. I was never a very good practical joker.
So do you have any regrets?
Garfield, maybe?
Rhett Reese, one of the writers of the script, later admitted that the team did not even hope to see a star of such magnitude in their film. He's the toughest to get in Hollywood. Reese explained during a 2010 interview with MTV, "We were out on set, and now we were actually a couple of days away from shooting the scene, and we'd written an alternate version where there was no celebrity. The 4 main characters were going to just run into some zombies in the house." They connected Harrelson to the process, who, thanks to his connections, was able to contact Murray, and they did not lose. The actor not only liked the idea, he asked to make his role bigger. Paul Wernick, another screenwriter, added, he reads the script, loves it, calls Woody, and Woody persuasively convinces him to do the project. 2 days later, he was out on set with us. Returning to the dramas, he accepted an offer to star in Aaron Schneider's drama Get Low, a story about a sullen recluse, Felix Bush, played by Robert Duvall, who suddenly decided to arrange his own funeral. He did it during his lifetime to see who would come and have the opportunity to enjoy what was happening. Bill got the role of one of the owners of the funeral home who helped the old man in his adventure. Interestingly, Bush is a real person, a man who became famous because of his funeral 5 years before his own death. At the beginning of the 20th century, in a remote village in Tennessee, hardly anyone was known for such unusual solutions. Therefore, the man's funeral became a national treasure, as many reporters came to see it. Why did the old man, who was both disliked and feared, decide to take such a step? It was all to lift the burden of guilt he had carried for 40 years, a guilt that, in reality, wasn't even his own. Murray himself has proved that he can and loves to work in independent cinema, and not only with famous masters of this niche, he created a curious dramatic image, not devoid of irony and humor. But how could he do it without it?
What do you do when people won't die?
Well, I guess...
One thing about Chicago, people know how to die.
The budget of the picture was small and hardly paid off, but at the same time, it received a number of nominations: Critics' Choice, Independent Spirit, including Bill Murray for Best Supporting Actor. The actor also tried himself in the series, playing a cameo role in the Parks and Recreation show in the 7th and last season of the series. Interestingly, the character of the mayor was like a phantom in the series. He was mentioned for 5 seasons, but never portrayed by anyone on screen. It was assumed that Walter Gunderson would remain an invisible secret until some eccentric movie star accepted the challenge to star in a TV series for a payment of $250. We were like, just forget it. It's cooler to mention the mayor but never see him. And around that time, we said internally that the only way we would ever do it was if we got Bill Murray. I don't know why. That became the thing. Maybe he was transitioning into being more myth than man at that point, said the producer of the series, Michael Schur. It became a kind of joke among the cast members and reached a climax during Late Night with Jimmy Fallon in 2011 when actress Amy Poehler said she would pay Murray $250 if he agreed to the role. There was no attempt to really lure him, we just kept saying it loud, said Schur. Aubrey Plaza met him somewhere and said, "You should be the mayor on our show," and he was like, "What are you talking about?" The situation during filming escalated due to the episode in which Mayer dies. The screenwriters masterfully thought out how to write in the script the funny death of a character that no one had seen. Aubrey and Amy were like, "This is your last chance. The mayor's dying. Do you want to come lie in a coffin? It would be really funny." Recounts Schur, quote, "And they told me, I think it might work." Soon after, Schur received a simple voicemail from Bill Murray that said, "Hey, this is Bill Murray. I hear you might have some dead work for me." He wouldn't have been Bill if he hadn't improvised his character's funeral speech, which was presented as a video message, and of course the actor laid down in the coffin. Despite the brevity of his appearance, Murray made the most of his time on set. He was just the most delightful person. Not only was he incredibly complimentary of the show, he went around to every one of the actors and told them how great they were and cited specific episodes and moments. He hung out on the set for 3 hours, watching us shoot the show. After Murray starred in the passing adult melodrama Passion Play, he disappeared from the screens for several years. He returned to the screens with 2 controversial comedies, not counting Moonrise Kingdom, which was also released in 2012. The first was Hyde Park on Hudson, a British comedy about the affair of U.S. President Franklin Delano Roosevelt with his cousin Margaret Suckley in 1939. Murray got the most important role here, the president. But in A Glimpse Inside the Mind of Charles Swan III by Roman Coppola, the main role has already gone to Charlie Sheen, whose career has also remained in doubt in recent years. Bill put on a big hat in the picture and played various hypostases of the same character in the imagination of a key character. Both films received negative and mixed reviews, and Coppola's project completely failed at the box office. The film holds a 16% rotten rating on Rotten Tomatoes based on 56 reviews and an average rating of 3.5 out of 10. The site's consensus reads, quote, "Tiresomely self-indulgent and lacking any storytelling cohesion, this glimpse inside the mind finds little food for thought." After a short break, Bill presented 5 of his projects to the audience at once. In addition to Anderson's iconic The Grand Budapest Hotel, 2 movies became successful too. There was the comedy St. Vincent, directed by Theodore Melfi, where Murray has the main role, and also the drama series Olive Kitteridge. If you look at Murray's character in the film St. Vincent, it becomes clear why the audience and critics like the picture. Judge for yourself. There's an ironic and cynical war veteran who loves booze and women of the oldest profession. But the hero is a good, kind-at-heart man who helps a 12-year-old boy survive his parents' divorce and becomes his mentor. This image seemed to be specifically written for Bill.
Well, I got a deal for you, little bully shit heels. Whatever you do to this guy here, I'm gonna do to your mothers. You understand? In the meantime, ride this.
What's up?
Theodore Melfi tried very hard to involve the actor in the filming, which, as we know, is not easy to do. After long unanswered calls, Bill suddenly suggests that the director hold an unusual meeting, a 3-hour trip to one of his houses, stopping at an In-N-Out burger on the way. But what ultimately won Murray over was the responsiveness to his notes. He told me, Melfi says, "You write with backspin, and I write with topspin. I'd like you to take this line, which is at the bottom of the passage, and move it to the first line." At first, I thought he was crazy, but as he started making the changes, his zingers roared to life. Motherfucker if he's not right, Melfi remembers thinking. The shooting partners were Jaden Martell, Melissa McCarthy, and Naomi Watts. The latter was very nervous about working with Bill. The actress was especially worried about the joint bed scenes, which affected her work. According to director Theodore Melfi, the actress was blushing with embarrassment and was very stiff. Even her partner saw how nervous she was, so when the director shouted cut, he asked her some innocent question in a joking way, after which Watts laughed and relaxed. But she did not leave the image even when there was no filming. This way, she felt more confident in the presence of the star. To get in shape and have some fun, the actor drove 15 miles every day from his house, which he rented while working on the film, to the set. But even with a responsible attitude to work, Bill managed to disappear. So one day he led the director into a state of panic when no one could find him. Murray went to meet with a war veteran who sat on his porch every day and watched the filming. Another day, Murray stole a golf cart and took Watts and Libber on an impromptu ride just as it was getting dark at the film set. "He just wants to have fun," Watts says. "It's always an adventure." The classic dramedy about friendship between a boy and a rude, grumpy old man tells primarily about friendship, about what people are willing to do for those they love. That the saints are among us, and they're not always perfect-looking people. Not surprisingly, the film received a lot of nominations, among them the Golden Globe for Bill in the category Best Actor in a Motion Picture, Musical, or Comedy. Unfortunately, he didn't win. In the realistic, lifelike drama Olive Kitteridge, Bill has a small role as a widower named Jack Kinnison. He accidentally meets the main character, pursuing thoughts of suicide after the death of his wife. His inner demons and experiences become consonant with the main character, played by Frances McDormand, and the elderly couple find solace in each other's company. Is this series about love? It's too complex and multifaceted for an unambiguous verdict. You can talk a lot about the moral and ethical aspect of Olive's life, but it is Bill's role that gives the whole story hope and bright spots.
The next thing, I'm lying on the ground and there's a woman squawking, "Are you dead?"
Well, you seem less dead every minute.
Get used to it.
And what about the other projects of the year? This is a passing Dumb and Dumber 2 and not too successful military comedy The Monuments Men with a wonderful cast. Judge for yourself. In addition to Murray, Matt Damon, George Clooney, John Goodman, Cate Blanchett, and others starred in the main roles. Murray's character is based on Robert Posey, an architect who discovered the salt mine at Altsee where German troops hid many great works of art. When the actor heard about the project, he really wanted to take part in it. Later, he will say, quote, "I really like the story. Chasing down stolen art in World War II, it has everything. It's an action movie, but it's also about good guys on the hunt in the name of something beautiful and wonderful. I just thought it'd be great." So what went wrong? The main number of negative reviews are related to the approach of Clooney, who was also the director of the picture. An unusual story based on the book by Robert Edsel had a chance to succeed. The story of a special squad that during World War II was engaged in the rescue of rare artifacts in combat areas is an unusual look at war films. The material of the book was based on real historical facts, and such a squad consisting of diverse representatives of the cultural world really existed. But as a result, a lot of gross historical inconsistencies were found in the script. They scolded the banality and predictability of the plot, a lot of stereotypes, poor disclosure of characters, and unfunny humor. The story literally crumbled into several puzzles, and the heavyweights of Hollywood cinema couldn't glue it together. Overall, the picture paid off, but with difficulty, earning $155 million with a budget of $70 million. Murray was very protective of the film at the press conference dedicated to the promotion. To do this story with this group of people is not just ennobling, because they're all so good. Everyone's such a good actor, but they're so much fun. I watched the movie for the first time last night, and on a number of occasions I went, "Oh yeah, we got that shot," and then we sat down and laughed for about 40 minutes. "Oh yeah, we stopped right there, and then we just started cracking wise, and then laughed for 40 minutes right there." According to the actor, Clooney took great care of the actors during filming. They had the opportunity to visit wonderful places, eat delicious food, and laugh a lot. Quote, "I never felt so protected and covered. And all of us as actors, everyone had great scenes to do," he added. So did all this really mean the end of the career of a world star? In recent years, Bill's been acting mainly in comedies. Perhaps his role and skills allow him to choose the roles that the audience expects from Bill Murray. But unfortunately, the actor's talent and charisma are often broken up by unsuccessful projects. In 2015, the melodrama Aloha with Bradley Cooper, Emma Stone, and Rachel McAdams was released. And a beautiful, colorful story about a former military man, played by Cooper, who goes to Hawaii with the hope of rehabilitating his career and meets two loves. Murray has a minor role. A billionaire, the owner of a private space company, a womanizer, and just a good guy who knows how to dance beautifully with the main character. Cameron Crowe tried hard to attract Murray to the project, but didn't truly believe it would happen. To achieve this, he brought in Emma Stone, who had known Murray since their work together on Zombieland. Unexpectedly, Bill responded to her suggestion, quote, "You, Hawaii, Crow. Sounds interesting." We both jumped up and down for a very long time and then tried not to get too excited. Crowe recalls, he sent the script to the actor, to which Bill recommended another actor to the director. Murray was literally slipping through his fingers, and the insistent offer did not work. Suddenly this happened. And then late one night, Crowe says, came another text, not from Bill, but from young Jaden. "Don't listen to the suits. I'm coming to Hawaii. Aloha. Bill." And that's how we found out he was going to be in the movie. He told us through his 10-year-old co-star, who I immediately nicknamed Bill Murray's agent.
I didn't abandon you. I saved you.
Let's do some great stuff here.
But Cameron Crowe, known to us for his kind and atmospheric projects, did not live up to the story. The film received mostly negative reviews from the American audience and practically did not reach Europe and earn negligibly. The modern tendency of society towards national justice probably played a role. In the film, where the action takes place in Hawaii, there is not a single ethnic representative among the main characters. Should they be there? The question is rhetorical. The comedy starring Bill, Barry Levinson's Rock the Cuspa, was even worse. The director already had experience shooting a good comedy film on a military theme, Good Morning Vietnam, but transferring the story to the soil of the realities of Afghanistan was a very brave and risky act. The main character is a once famous music producer, Richie Lanz, who loses his passport, money, and his singer during a tour of Afghanistan. Fate sends him a second chance, a local talented girl, played by Leem Lubani, with a wonderful voice, whom Murray's hero is trying to help break through all political and cultural obstacles. The task is not easy, because women are not allowed to sing here, but Richie does not despair. He has the support of a local mercenary, played by Bruce Willis, a girl of the oldest profession, played by Kate Hudson, and most importantly, faith in himself and his star.
The girl has talent, she has the gift, she has the magic, I know it. How the hell good am I if I can't break a talent like that?
I saw the audience. They did not dig an uncovered Pashtun girl singing Cat Stevens in English.
But the implementation of a good idea turned out to be mediocre. That's how the critics of the picture summarized it. It has little in common with the real story of the singer who sang in the Afghan musical TV show. Actually, the film is based on real events. They also criticized the mediocre work of the screenwriters. The story is predictable, filled with cliches. The plot is similar in level to the B-class action films. At the same time, the director can be praised for daring to raise serious and unpopular topics like chauvinism, sexism, personal freedoms, all that is closed by the religious dogmas of Islamic socialism. The movie does not pretend to be genius. Rather, the author tries to inspire hope in a jokingly ironic manner. And who better to handle it if not Bill? In the next few years, the actor takes a break from the cinema and takes part in the voiceover of the Baloo in the animated film The Jungle Book, as well as cameo roles in the TV series Angie Tribeca and Vice Principals. Revealing more than just his acting talents, Murray decides to launch a musical project called New Worlds. The album consists of covers and recitations of literary works accompanied by classical music. There are the works of Walt Whitman, Ernest Hemingway, as well as motifs from the musical West Side Story. They are accompanied by music by Bach, Schubert, and Piazzolla. Cellist Jen Vogler helped the actor implement this idea. They met back in 2013 while traveling and became friends while already in New York. After finding common interests in art and music, Vogler and Murray developed an idea that would be called Bill Murray, Jan Vogler, and Friends.
And may you, in your innocence, sail through this to that.
In 2019, the actor was drawn to horror films, and we see him in the sequel to the horror comedy Zombieland Double Tap, still in the role of himself, yes, and in the title role of the horror comedy, this time Jim Jarmusch's The Dead Don't Die. The indie director offered him the role of one of the cops who are trying to figure out what the hell is going on in their small town. Adam Driver became his partner, and the filming company was made up of actors such as Tilda Swinton, Chloe Sevigny, Steve Buscemi, and Selena Gomez. The plot revolves around three lawmen, the owner of a funeral home, a gamekeeper, a movie fanatic, and several civilians, and they're all trying to figure out why the day doesn't come to an end. The animals run off into the woods, the phones don't work, and the same song is playing on the radio. A zombie invasion is coming, but in the classic Jarmusch style. The bloody and fantastic screen here only hides the problematic issues of modern society. That most of the people of our time are already the walking dead, and how we fill our heads and reality with material goods, replacing the concepts and meaning of life. People depend on social networks, virtuality on the other side of the screen, on the internet and entertainment, like the living dead on another portion of human flesh. Civilization is built on the principle of everything for people, but in fact, it's precisely that destroys humanity. The picture, as expected, turned out to be not for everyone. Many did not understand the meaning and did not appreciate the dynamics. It received mixed reviews and earned little at the box office, only $15 million. COVID-19 has left its mark on the work of many, and the actors are no exception. Two of Murray's subsequent works were released on the Apple TV Plus platform. This is a dramedy, On the Rocks, starring Bill and Rashida Jones, as well as a small role as a bartender in the comedy Greatest Beer Run Ever. On the Rocks became another joint project of the actor with Sofia Coppola, and as the director likes it, the film focuses on the inner experiences of the two main characters. Everything else is just an entourage that should complement the main idea. These two are a father, played by Murray, and a daughter, played by Jones, who go on a journey to expose the heroine's unfaithful husband. But in reality, they solve their personal problems in a relationship. The daughter's worries are fueled by the behavior of this very father who, despite the age, leads a wild life of a womanizer, a cynic and a slob, a proud chauvinist with the habits of an aristocrat. Many people were looking for depth from this film, but did Coppola manage to go beyond the usual romantic comedy?
You can't go deaf just to women.
It's the pitch.
The picture was criticized for its cardboard banality and excessive tension of problems. Even Murray's hero has been criticized as a boring, tough character. But these are the audience. Critics were delighted with this indie film, which grossed only $200,000. And what is it? The sunset of Coppola or Murray? Or maybe it's just a niche project. The latest film at the moment, except for the not-too-successful last Ghostbusters, was the superhero action movie Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, in which Murray plays the role of the mysterious Lord Krylar. In partnership with Paul Rudd, Michael Pfeiffer, Evangeline Lilly, Michael Douglas, and others, Bill becomes part of the adventures of Ant-Man in the Marvel Universe. Paul Rudd's line is currently the lightest and most comedic in the Marvel franchise, so it's not surprising that Murray easily fit into it. But still, such a movie seems unusual for an actor with such experience. Rumor has it that the actor has long wanted to take part in such a project, and he finally got the opportunity. Moreover, Bill himself had a hand in this, calling actress Kathryn Newton, asking if he would be given any role in this film. The movie failed in many ways. They criticized everything they could cling to: the plot, the main character, and the motivation of the heroes, the visual series. In addition, it became a box office disappointment, grossing $476 million with a budget of $326 million. Rotten Tomatoes gave the film a score of 5.5 out of 10, and the site's consensus read, quote, "Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania mostly lacks the spark of fun that elevated earlier adventures, but Jonathan Majors Kang is a thrilling villain poised to alter the course of the MCU." The critics weren't thrilled either. But the actor is not discouraged. It's already known about 3 of his projects for the future: the crime comedy Riff Raff, the picture Bums Rush, and the dramedy Being Moral, in which the actor has one of the main roles. It's currently unknown whether the picture with Bill will be released. Not so long ago, information leaked online that filming had been suspended. The forced decision was due to the scandal surrounding Bill Murray. A complaint has been filed against the actor. There are no details about the severity of the complaint, and Searchlight has not yet commented on the investigation. An email sent to the film crew states that, quote, "At the end of last week, we were informed of the complaint and we immediately reviewed it. After examining the circumstances, it was decided that the production could not continue at the present time." The actor himself commented on the situation, explaining that he had a disagreement with one woman who did not understand his joke. The actor thought about the incident for a week, but did not specify who this woman was and what the joke was. "As of now, we are talking and we're trying to make peace with each other," Murray said in an interview during CNBC's exclusive streaming coverage of the Berkshire Hathaway annual shareholders meeting. "We are both professionals, we like each other's work, we like each other, I think, and if we can't really get along and trust each other, there's no point in going further working together or making the movie as well. It's been quite an education for me." There was already a precedent for a complaint. Even during the filming of Charlie's Angels, Lucy Liu complained about the actor, referring to the fact that Murray insulted her during one of the scenes. It was unfair and inappropriate. Some of the expressions were inexcusable and unacceptable, and I wasn't going to just sit and listen to it. So yes, I stood up for myself and I don't regret it, the actress said at the time. But was it an unsuccessful attempt to diffuse the situation while working? We'll never know. In 2023, the world was shocked by the news about the actor's new high-profile romance. The media began to gossip about a relationship between Murray and the singer Kellis, known for her song Milkshake, who is 30 years younger than him. The U.S. Sun, in a report dated June 8, 2023, claimed that he had been at several Kellis concerts, in particular at one in London the previous weekend. It's also reported that they were in the same hotel and, quote, had been getting closer for some time. They've met up in the States before, which got people in the industry talking, and now are meeting up in London while they're both here, the insider reportedly told the outlet. They've clearly hit it off. They were both seen at the same hotel, and he's been to watch her perform several times before he went to the mighty hoopla. But they've also both shared relatively recent bereavements and have that common bond between them. Whatever it is that has brought them together, and however unlikely it seems, they're both single and are having fun despite the fairly big age gap. But the reality turned out to be different. 2 weeks after the press started talking about their affair, the singer said there was nothing to worry about and denied the rumors. So, under one of her videos, she answered a fan's question about whether she was dating the actor. Ugh, no. The newspapers claimed that the couple broke up but remained friends. The source close to the duo also claimed that despite the breakup, Kellis and Bill hope to keep it amicable. They both have busy schedules and after a whirlwind romance decided to go their separate ways. They added, they hope to remain friends but also plan to get on with their lives. Knowing Bill's character, we will clearly hear more about his adventures. That's all for today. It was Biographer with you, and we really love it when you give us reactions in the comments. Subscribe to the channel and definitely don't miss new videos. See you very soon. Bye-bye.